Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for the webinar today. Appreciate you being here. We are going to go ahead and get started up. As other folks maybe join us, that's great too. They'll join in and they'll obviously get the recording from this as well as we go through today. I am very excited to have you all join us today and talk about two of my favorite things. One, NetSuite, and two is nonprofits. So just a little bit of background. I'll give you an introduction of myself, and I'll give you an introduction of Techfino, and then I'll kind of talk through what we're going to talk about over the next hour or so, and then we'll kick off from there and get moving. So my name is Jonathan Holly. I am a consultant here at Techfino. I've worn many hats in the NetSuite space. I'm currently a solution consultant, so that means that I get to work a little bit more on the pre-sales side of things. So new prospects, then I get to tell them about how great NetSuite is and how great Techfino is, which is part of what I'm doing today. But I also do, I've done implementations and I've been in the NetSuite space for a little over 11 years now. I started on the customer side, so I've been exactly where you are. Working day to day in an ERP, accounting, whatever type software system you're using and need to use, and got to do it in NetSuite, and I saw over a few years on it with a customer what NetSuite could do, right, and how a business could utilize it to not just run their day to day operations, but to grow and thrive, right? And that's what excites me about getting to tell you about NetSuite today. NetSuite's just a software system. I think it's a really good one. But what I enjoy the most about my job is getting to work with businesses, many of them just like yours, especially in the nonprofit space, who, like I said, utilize this software to complete their missions. In your case, right? Of what is it you're trying to do as a nonprofit, and so that's why, like I said, I'm excited to talk to you today. I've got a long history in my life of being involved in and around nonprofits. Many of my very close family members today work in and run nonprofits as well. And then I've also had a history of working with nonprofits in NetSuite. And like I said, one of my favorite times to use NetSuite as a system is with a nonprofit and get to help you guys out. Techfino is a NetSuite partner, so we only work on NetSuite and ancillary things that go along with it, of course. But for about 10 years, a little over 10 years, 11 years now, I guess, Techfino has been working as a partner with NetSuite. We are what's called a solution provider partner. So that means that we not only work on the system itself and help customers out, but we also license it too through Oracle, right? So what that means is we can help you to get the most out of the system, not just from building it out for you, implementing it, optimizing it, but we can also help you know what the best thing to purchase is, right? So the best version of NetSuite, the best, mix of modules and bundles and all that stuff that come into play, right? And that's very important when we talk about nonprofits as well, because what I'm going to show you kind of plays into that. So, like I said, we are able to do everything beginning to end in NetSuite. So we'll help you get the right, combination of the system. We will help you get up and running on the system, and then we don't drop you from there, right? We are in it for the long haul. So we have a great team of customer support reps who are there to help you out with anything that you need. We also are fairly unique as NetSuite partners in that we have a full, just great team, dedicated team, very smart team of developers who can customize and develop all kinds of interesting, neat, very technical things on top of NetSuite and within NetSuite. Right, so you're not limited to just what you see out of the box, although what you get out of the box is also great. But we do have a dedicated team that's ready to help, really tailor it to what you need as well. So Techfino's been doing this, like I said, for a while now with the customers in a lot of different verticals. But we, Techfino, even as a company, especially enjoys working with nonprofits, and we have several nonprofit customers that we help out in many different types of businesses. And I'll talk about that later on too. One of the reasons why I love NetSuite as an ERP for nonprofits. Let me flip through my slides here real fast. I'm not great at slides, but I'll flip through them. So our journey today, right? So I'm going to talk through NetSuite, right? That's kind of the plan here, right? I'm going to show you what it can do for nonprofits. This is not a demo, so I'll tell you that up front, right? I'm not going to do a very, very deep dive into all of the bells and whistles and features and functions of NetSuite itself. I'm going to give you a high-level overview of NetSuite as a suite of different modules and things that you can use, and I'm going to highlight the nonprofit version of that and all of the extra tools that you get as a nonprofit within NetSuite, right? So that's the goal here, is to kind of show you its capabilities and what it can do and what you're going to get out of the box. And then, hopefully that helps you to get a quick idea of, maybe NetSuite can do what we need. And then we are happy to do a deeper dive with you specifically into your business and what you need and all the details there, right? Because every single one of you on this webcast right now have unique businesses that you're running, right? They may all be nonprofits, but they are unique businesses. So we want to dive into those and help you individually, right? And help you understand that NetSuite, what it can do, and make sure that it really could work for you potentially. So we'll talk about some of the things you can see here listed, right? The fund accounting, the grant management, some of the automated reporting that you get for FASB and 990 type reports, as well as many other things. We're going to talk about the platform itself of NetSuite, right? That unified platform. That's where it really shines and where you're going to get the most bang for your buck out of this thing. And then on the final thing we're going to talk about is your business, right? So, like I said, NetSuite's great, but we're here to help you and your business run. So we're going to talk about that and how we can do even more than just accounting, right? So that's the goal for today. Hopefully that hits what everyone's looking for here, and we'll talk through that. Let me go on to my next slide here really quickly, just to show some of the things, right, of NetSuite from a high level of what we're doing, right? For so long, and so many folks that I talk to, they're still operating in spreadsheets in many cases, right? Maybe they have some accounting system, but they have disparate systems for accounting versus grant management versus constituent management, CRM, type systems, right? And at the end of the day, they're all trying to tie it together and probably using spreadsheets, right? So typically, that slows down your operations. It hinders your ability to make quick decisions of what you need to do, right? And you can see, right, that copy paste marathon. I've done that in the past. It's not fun, right? Not a good thing to be doing right there at the end of the month or right before an audit, trying to get everything right, and you're missing something, right? Because you always miss something. I always miss something there too. So the idea, right, with NetSuite is that you should be able to get those quick views of what's happening with your business, have that quick reporting. Everything is live data. You're not doing that copy and paste thing, and you're getting exactly what you need out of the system when you need it, and in whatever form or function that may be, right? That's the goal, right? Because what you need to see one way may be completely different than what your auditors need to see, or from what another employee within your organization needs to see, right? So we want to be able to give the data to you in a way that makes sense for everybody. So that's another thing we'll talk about here today. A couple of quick stats here that we'll talk about, right? You can see, it's easy, and this is not unique to nonprofits, right? It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day of what we're doing, right? And so it's hard to stop and be able to think long-term and create those long-term strategies, because we're too busy doing the manual minutia tasks today. And so that's one thing we talk about with all of our customers, is we want to help you get a system that can automate some of that, can help make sure you're not missing even the things that you still may need to do manually. You're not missing it, right? You're not hunting and trying to find it. You're not building those manual reports every day. So that frees you up to be able to create those long-term strategies, right? 76% of our nonprofits don't have a formal data strategy, right? And so they're getting stuff where they can. They're pulling information from where they can. They're trying to make sense of it. But struggling to do so, and therefore then struggling to ultimately be able to perform their organizational goals, right? And so that's what we want to help free up as well, right? That reporting is slow, it's hard to do, and obviously technology is a problem. And especially with our nonprofits, right? We know that you don't typically have a full tech team that is ready to be able to run these systems for you. And especially when you have 4 or 5 different types of systems you're running and trying to bring all that data together, it's a handful, right? And you have things to do in your day-to-day job besides being an IT manager. So once again, that's something we want to help try to alleviate and cut down on and give you a system that's easily managed, but also that gives you everything you need in one place. So I am going to actually go ahead and jump into the system now. I prefer just to work in NetSuite. Slides are kind of boring. So let me cut over here in just a second, and I will show you NetSuite. All right. Hope everyone can see that okay. There we go. There it comes up. Okay. All right, so this is NetSuite. This is a demo account of NetSuite that I have. This is the nonprofit version. You'll see, sometimes you'll see the word social impact up here, right? So that's what they tend to refer to it as, is social impact. That's our nonprofit version of NetSuite. Now, what does that mean, right? When I say a version of NetSuite, NetSuite is NetSuite. Every customer gets the base core version of NetSuite. It's not really different from anyone else. What you do get, though, and what you typically purchase is a set of already pre-configured and preset, whether it's modules, reports, roles, tools, things that have been set up already for your type of business. NetSuite has many of these, right? From wholesale distributors and manufacturers to software companies to retailers. And then one of them is nonprofits, our social impact version, right? So they've gone ahead and created some really unique tools that sits on top of the exact same version of NetSuite as everyone else, but tools that are tailored for nonprofits that you can take advantage of right out of the gate. You do not have to go and build these things yourselves, right? So you're not, having to go and recreate the wheel every time. You're going to get this great version of NetSuite. So I am here on my dashboard. I'm in an admin role within this. Just so you know too, right, NetSuite is 100% cloud-based. I'm on a browser. I'm using a Chrome browser on my PC. It's agnostic as to what device you're using, and as long as you're on a modern browser and you have access to the internet, you can access NetSuite from anywhere, right? And we have, I've worked with plenty of people that access NetSuite from the golf course, right? If you're traveling around, I was at a conference for nonprofits last week actually, and I was, sitting there working in NetSuite, right, for multiple people while I was at this conference. So you can do that, right? It is 100% cloud-based. But it also has really, deep levels of permission and role-based controls within the system, which I know is, sometimes obviously it's important for everyone, but can sometimes be extremely important for those that are maybe working in the medical space and you have HIPAA compliance that you have to contend with, or, you just want to make sure no one has access to your financials, right? So as you can see here, like I said, I'm in the admin role. I have other roles here, things like grant administrator, AP clerk, CFO, right? Those roles all control permissions and access within the system. So once again, that's something you would get out of the box, or those ones that are pre-configured for, say, those grant managers or program managers. It also controls what those people can see in the system and how they can interact with the data. So whether they can access certain types of financial reports or transactions, and how they interact with it. Maybe they can see a certain type of transaction, but they're not allowed to create new ones. Maybe they can create new ones, but they can't edit existing ones, right? So very deep level, permissions within those. It gets extremely granular, even down to the field level within all of the records within NetSuite, right? So like I said, the idea here is you can control what people see and do within your system and how they access it. And we make sure that all of that is set up in a way that makes sense for you and your business. And those can all be tweaked and tailored, right, to you and what you need to see there. These dashboards, this is some real-time data that's flowing through the system using our multiple reporting tools within the system. I did a webinar last month that was all focused on reporting. So you can actually, if you want to access that, I'm sure you can get to it from our Techfino website and our social media stuff as well. If you want to do a little deeper dive on some of the reporting tools, or I'm not, like I said, later on, happy to focus with anyone on those too. But those reporting tools drive these dashboards for us, right? They're all pulling in real-time data from our live transactions that are flowing through the system. I'm going to jump over to another role, one second here, just so you can see what I mean. So I'm in the admin role, like I mentioned. I'm going to go over to my CFO role. So let me change my role here, pull that up in just a second. And you'll see I have a completely different dashboard that's been tailored specifically for this CFO. Has a little different look and feel to it. Actually has a different skin sitting on it as well that NetSuite has put out recently. And you can see this is tailored for someone who is the CFO or some kind of high level, financial user within your nonprofits, right? So we have quick access to things like our statement of activity, financial positions, cash flow, our functional expenses, right? We have our financials KPIs here that are focused on program expense percentages and operating expenses and receivables turnover, right? You come down here to these KPIs and we have things like our restricted revenue, unrestricted revenue. We have some really cool, graphs and charts here that are looking at, say, our functional expenses and being able to see a breakdown of them by our different programs within the system. Maybe it's revenue by program or quarterly payables trends that we have here, right? We always say these dashboards should be set up in a way that you can come and sit down at your computer first thing in the morning and you get an idea of what's going on with your business and then what are the most important things that you need to focus on, right? And that's true of a nonprofit just like any other business. And so that's where you're going to get these dashboards and roles that are tailored specifically to what you need and how you need to see it. So one of the really cool things that NetSuite realizes for nonprofits is that you need to slice and dice your data in completely different ways than what a for-profit business might need to. So out of the box, NetSuite has 3 segments, and you might be kind of familiar with segmentation or dimensionality if you've been using other systems, right? Like QuickBooks has classes, right? If you use GP, you have the dimensions from GP that you can use. NetSuite has what we call segments, right? You have 3 of them natively out of the box that everyone gets: class, department, and location. But with this nonprofit version of NetSuite, you're going to get about 8, 9 more out of the box, right? Which is really neat. So what are those? Let me show you really quickly, and I will hover over here. You'll see this, right? So we have things like our restrictions, our programs, revenue types and subtypes, the grant, the time restrictions, functional expenses, regions. Let's skip over segment code. I'll come to that. And then our grant specific data, right? Like priorities, restrictions, statuses, things like that go along with those, right? So, right, you have, fund accounting, you have different, accounting priorities and rules and compliance that you have to contend with that many other businesses don't, right? So things like restricted, revenue that we need to do. NetSuite understands that. So we've got a restriction process built into the system out of the box for you to be able to tag revenue as restricted or unrestricted, and then along with maybe the program or a time restriction going along with that, right? We have our programs that we track, right? So not just a class of, say a revenue stream or something like that, but we're actually creating these different programs that we need to track revenue to or expenses to, whatever it may be, right? So lots of different ways we can slice and dice that. I'm going to visualize that for you by pulling up our income statement right now. Let me pull up an actual current time period here really quickly. So income statement, just like any other income statement, right? NetSuite's an accounting system at its core. So you're going to get all your typical financial reporting right out of the box: your income statement, your balance sheet, your trial balances, your, all that fun stuff. And so you can see here, this is our kind of standard income statement. But when I talk about that segmentation and how we want to slice and dice that, you can see I can go ahead and add in some columns here, things like our class, our department, our location. Those are those native ones. Subsidiary. So if you do have a multi-subsidiary environment, NetSuite can handle that as well. That's one of the big reasons why we do see nonprofits coming to NetSuite from, say, a QuickBooks or something like that, where we can more easily handle that, multi-subsidiary, even multinational setup, right? So that's one of the big ones that we have. And then you can see those other, types of segments that I had in here. I'm going to select program. I'm going to hit refresh here very quickly, and you'll be able to see now this view has changed to where it's the exact same data. Nothing has changed as far as what is there. It's just visualizing it differently. So now I'm breaking down our corporate contributions by the different programs in this case, right? So whether it's something that's unassigned, I need to go assign that to a program potentially, or any of our different programs we have throughout the system that are currently active, as well as in this case we have some unrestricted funds as well that we were using as a program. Right? So we can easily see that, or maybe we wanted to see it by the grants, right? So I can throw that in there too. Maybe I want to break down our income statement by grant, right? Very quickly, easily visualizing our financials this way, however you want to see it. And if I want to dive into it, I can easily do that too. So let me just click the button here. And I'm now specifically looking at this $5,000 from our local government grants GL account that were within this program, right? So easy to kind of dive in and see. And then one more click and I'm at the transaction itself. I love showing this. It doesn't matter if it's the nonprofit or not. I love showing that from 2 clicks, I went from a very high level income statement down to the transaction detail level. And I'm now starting to understand what is driving that GL impact, and be able to, go and actually figure out what's happening within the business at that detailed level. So like I said, that segmentation, right? That's what allows us to basically keep a more simplified vertical GL structure within our chart of accounts, right? One of my favorite examples that I love to use, the nonprofit that I worked with years ago, they came from GP to NetSuite, and they had a crazy chart of account structure because they tracked their programs at 3 different levels, right? So very high level, kind of top level goals. And then underneath that, they would have, maybe 5, 6, 7, different sub goals within those. And under that, each of those goals would have 10, 20 or more tasks that they would be tracking underneath that, right? And GP did not allow them to segment their data this way. So over a couple of decades of working in a system and having to track, their chart of accounts that way, they had 44,000 GL accounts within GP. Because of this segmentation within NetSuite, we were able to greatly reduce that number. And we went live with about 300, I think, GL accounts in that system, right? So we cleaned up that data mess that had been, growing this massive hairball over decades, and simplified it, not only so that they could more easily visualize and understand what happened with any of their programs over time, but also then it was more easily managed going forward. Right. And that's one of my favorite success stories, right? It blows, every time I say that 44,000 number, people, they can't believe it. I couldn't believe it when I heard it the first time, but I love that we were able to work through that and get that company up and running in NetSuite and using this segmentation. So like I said, lots of different ways that you can do this. Now you're sitting there going like, how, okay, I've got to like tag everything, this way, whatever, kind of thing. I'm going to jump back over. Actually, let me just do it here. You know what? No, I'm going to go. I'll change back over to my admin role. I forgot I had my bill up over here. So let me show you at the transaction level what that looks like. So you can see, right, at this level. So here's a vendor bill or a vendor invoice, right, that I received from a consulting company. And you can see my account that it's going to are my accounting fees. So in this case, I am driving this expense to a specific expense account, but maybe I want to, then tag this for, those different segments, things like that. So this $1,000. Maybe it's for a specific constituent or, donor, customer, whatever you may want to call them, or project. Maybe it's a certain functional expense. Maybe it was, for fundraising or program services. What are my restrictions? And you can see this is required. It's a mandatory field. I have to choose, is this with or without restrictions, right? What are my programs? What are my grants that this may be for? What are the time restrictions, region, right? So you can see, even just from a very simple 1-line bill, I can be very specific about, how this needs to be segmented. And then this would flow up through all of my financial reports. NetSuite realized that, this is a lot sometimes to enter. So they created this really cool thing called the segment code. And I love showing this because this is only available for nonprofits. This functionality does not exist natively for other NetSuite users. And I'm sure if they saw it, they'd be very angry that you guys get it and they don't. So for instance, let's say I want to do an event without restrictions. I can choose that. And you can see I created this segment that drives all of this different segmentation within it. So I don't have to go choose every single individual piece. I can set up this generalized segment that drives that information for me. And then if I go and save this bill, now this is going to hit that GL impact, not only of my GL account, but the segmentation within it very easily, right? So I said, very easy to manage these, drive it back to whatever the source, in this case of that bill, and what that needs to be tagged to. Oh, this is pending approval because I have an approval process on this too. Something else we have in NetSuite too. So I just want to show that, and you can see my GL impact then in this case, right? So I'm hitting my accounts payable and my accounting fees accounts, and then you can see the segmentation within that. So like I said, I just want to show this. This helps to visualize what you can do with those segments in NetSuite, and the ability to be able to drive down into your data exactly how you need to see it. And you set that up and manage those so that now you're not trying to do that in spreadsheets separately, right? It's all right here within the system. It works really well. I love that functionality. All right, so one of my favorite things there, like I said, I love that. That's always great to have that information. And I love the reporting tools in NetSuite. That's one of my favorite parts about NetSuite, one of my favorite things to show. So let me show you just a few more of the reports that you're going to get out of the box with NetSuite, both from a native standpoint and also from the financial nonprofit version of NetSuite. So you'll have things that, all of our reports out of the box. You can come down here and see all the financials, right? Like I mentioned, the income statement, balance sheet, trial balances. You'll be able to see things like your purchases by vendor and item, for instance, your pledges in this case, or orders within the system. If you're doing any kind of marketing tracking or forecasting for your pledges, things like that, right? You'll have all of that reporting here. You're going to get just natively, it's usually around 300 to 400 reports out of the box with NetSuite, right? And like I said, that's just something that they've gone ahead and tailored for any business to use in NetSuite. But now on top of that, they have specific ones for nonprofits. So you can see here my nonprofit financial center. I have now reports for restrictions, for program revenue streams, giving statistics, right? My expense reports, whether that's by programs or my grant expenses, my revenue that needs to be released, maybe from use or time restrictions. And so there's a process to do that and have that audit trail of restriction releases as well. And then my grant management as well, right? So we have the grants that we're going to manage in the system and all of the information that comes along with that. And I'll show you that here in just a minute as well. But just to see a couple of these reports, you can see things like program revenue by month, for instance. You can see, and you can see it here. So top level with or without restrictions, and then maybe even programs that they were tied to, but they, in this case, that we tied them to a program potentially, but they're not restricted to that program. So you have some flexibility there. Giving statistics by constituent, for instance, right? So this is just an easy view of all of our constituents, how many times they've gifted anything to us, the total of that, and then the average gift size as well, right? So quick, easy visibility into that information. I'll come back to this in just a second and show you some more about that constituent. Here's that release from use restriction, right? So you can see that breakdown, and this is what's going to help us to manage the ability in NetSuite to see, very specifically what has been released, what has been restricted, but then also if we needed to release from restrictions, we can do that process here within the system too. And like I said, more importantly, you have that audit trail of who did it, when they did it, how they did it. It's not going to necessarily tell you why, but you'll know exactly who to go talk to. And that's what's important. Restricted revenue by program is another great report here as well, right? And then even coming down here of our constituent list here. Let me show you another of our reporting tools. This is a prettier one, the newer reporting tool in NetSuite called Suite Analytics Workbooks. This allows us to basically have pivot tables and charts and graphs within the system as well. And so you can see things like a graph here of net assets by grant and program, right? So now I want to see that visually within the system here. Or maybe I want to see just a revenue restriction by account. And so you can see that as well, right? So I have the ability to build different types of, like I said, reporting tools, even from the same data set. In this case, that's what these workbooks allow us to do. And then going back to my dashboard, all of this can be visible on the dashboard as well. It can all also be exported, sent to people, emailed, scheduled to be emailed, all that fun stuff, right? So however it is that you want to visualize your data, so NetSuite's going to help you get there, pretty well out of the box, but we can always come in here and tweak these reports and make sure that you get the data the way you need to see it, right? That's what's important here. I'm going to go to, I want to show you this. I want to show you this constituent, right? So we talked about, I showed you that giving statistics by constituent. The very top one that gave us the most money, at least for this year, was Zeus software. So I'm going to show you Zeus software and see, okay, what what do we see in the system for this constituent, right? What type of information can we track and visualize here of that? Because one of the important things about NetSuite is that it's not just an accounting software. It is a CRM as well, out of the box. That's just core NetSuite for everyone. It does have a fully fledged CRM that is baked into everything that you do. And as a user, as someone that has configured this for marketing and sales teams as well, I where this shines is that now everything is in one place. Everyone's working off the same data. Everyone has the same knowledge of what is going on with your constituents, whether it's someone managing them from a grant standpoint, or whether it's your accounting team that's visualizing it from the receivable standpoint, right? You should all be working off of the same data. This is all unified on a single platform within NetSuite, right? So your constituents can be managed in one place. And what does that allow you to do? That allows me to come in here and see potentially communication in one single place across this this constituent. So here are, in this case, they were cash sales or donations that were made, and the email notifications of that confirmations that we received that. As long as I have permissions to view this, anyone can come in here and see this information. Anyone can come in here and track every transaction that this constituent or customer has been involved with. In this case, they're just donations, but it could also be pledges. It could be credits, right? If we need to give them some money back for some reason, whatever that may be. If I want to see their items purchased, right? The different things that they gave money to, for instance, different programs, all that. I can track all of that in a single place. Like I said, that's all controlled by the permissions and who has access to see it. But the important thing is it's all there. And so you're not hunting and trying to find where it may be within the system. You can come to a single source and find that information. Some giving statistics here as well within this. One thing that I love to point out here, this is, like I said, I came from the NetSuite side of things. So for me, this seems like such a simple thing that I did not realize was a problem until I mentioned some close family members who run nonprofits as well told me they were struggling with this. I love to point this out and hit edit mode in this so you can see what I'm talking about. Zeus Software is a company, right? So they are in some way an entity that is an institution or a business, whatever it may be. NetSuite allows you to track as a constituent, a customer, donor, whatever that entity is. They can be both either a company or an individual, but they are, at the end of the day, still a constituent. And I've come to learn that there are some nonprofit accounting systems out there that struggle to do one or the other. They're focused on individual donors, or they're structured on, really focused on those institutional donors. NetSuite doesn't differentiate necessarily between the two, other than allowing you to tag them, but they are treated as the same entity. So Zeus Software can be a business, but Jonathan Holly can also be a constituent as an individual, as myself. And if I were to click this button here and make them an individual, you would see now it is not the company name that is required. It is a first and last name that is required within this constituent setup. That seems like such a simple little thing, like I said, that I never would have thought was a problem, but I have learned is for many nonprofits. So NetSuite doesn't, I'm not saying they don't care, but they do not restrict you basically on who is your constituent, whether it's a business or an individual person. And so what that allows you to do is simplify your reporting as well, right? So you're not, there's not that immediate breakdown. Donors are donors, right? Constituents are constituents. And then if you want to report on which ones are individuals versus which ones are institutions or businesses, you can do that as well. But it's not a segmentation immediately. So that's a great tool within the system to be able to see. And so you can see here, like I said, this constituent, everything that I'm managing with them, all the information you would expect to be able to manage on a customer or a person, right? To say, who are they? How do I contact them? And then to be able to see, okay, what have they done, with me over the years? In this case, you can see a lifetime view of their donations. Zeus, they came out of nowhere and started giving us money in 2025. That's great, right? We love new donors. So you can track that level of information and be able to get those quick views of your customers, your constituents, your donors, right? And so managing the communication with them in one central place is is wonderful, right? And like I said, it's not a separation then between, one team managing this constituent versus another having a completely different view of this person, and you have dead data between the two because, we have their address correct in one software and not in the other, and you don't know which one is which now. Right? NetSuite has that all in one central place, so we can manage that easily. Going along with that too, then is once again that platform of not only just the ERP, the CRM, but then and the constituent management within that. Then we also have the ability to track our grants. So let me jump in. I'm actually going to go over to another role over here, to our grant manager role. See what that looks like as well from a dashboard standpoint, and what they see. So you can see this is my a role that I'm in that is tailored specifically towards someone that's managing grants. And you can see my dashboard here is set up for them, right? They have these shortcuts to quickly get to their grant information, right? And track that down easily. Their KPIs and all that are focused on grant information, right? Like I said, we want them to have the information that's most important to them right in front of their face as soon as they need it, right? And so just want to show all that here that we have within the system. So let me pull up a grant here. And that was my list of grants. Here's an actual grant within the system. This is grant number 4. So very generic, but you can see this is from the Above the Cloud Foundation. And you can see even I'm allowed to track within it. The principal investigator of this is Jackson Reed within my organization, right? I have a total amount of $10,000 for this grant. And you can see the information I'm tracking there, like types and restrictions and terms and priorities, right? So going back to that financial center and the grant management that we talked about, right? The data management, there's all those lists of the grants data that we can use within this. So they're just lists that drive that segmentation and allow us to track that, right? Things like our, program officers or leads, application dates, all that traceability, right? I feel like I'm harping on the reporting a lot, and I am because I love it. But that's important, right? It's not just putting the information in the system; it's what we are able to do with the information. So one of the most important things too about NetSuite that is great is you're not limited to what's here, right? We can customize all of these, forms, fields, everything within the system. Create custom fields too. So if there's additional information that we do not have out of the box on these, which I expect, right? You all have fairly unique things that you may need to report on for different, grant entities, right? Or government organizations or whatever it may be, right? NetSuite can't know all of the things that you need to track data on, so they make it very, very easy for you to create new fields to be able to track that information. And I say that not as somebody that's been doing this a long time, but as someone who, because I have, but as somebody that I'm not a developer, I don't code, but I make these custom fields and things all the time. It's very easy to do, very easy to track that data, and then it's all also immediately reportable. So anything in here that you need to track from a grant standpoint or any other information, you can immediately report on it as well and trace that information. I'm going to pull down here. You can see my milestones in this case that I'm tracking. So whether it's report deadlines for audits, financials, programs, right? This is, to track the information that you need in here so that you're not losing things, right? We want the system to help you do your job. It's not necessarily going to do it for you. It's not, we're not trying to take your jobs away like AI is. But we're trying to help you do your jobs, right? And so we want the system to help alert you and warn you, hey, you're getting close to your audit report deadline, right, that you set up. And who is that assigned to? And did they complete it or not, right? So, the management within the organization can easily view all of this information and see, right, are we on track with our grants, with the milestones that we have within those and the requirements that we have for those, right? And once again, all of that is traceable and trackable as well. We also have our related records. So these grant records are a great way to consolidate information and bring everything together in one place. So it's not just the grant itself, it is also the transactions that go along with it. So I showed you earlier a bill that we may tag to a specific grant, for instance. All of that is going to be consolidated here under the grant information. So we're going to see our net assets, for instance, pulled up here. we're going to see any invoices that we create within the system. So this is specifically for $10,000 that for this this is the revenue that we would tie here, all right, to this grant. We have our expenses tied here, so you can see any expense reports, bills, and then the segmentation that comes along with that as well, right? So all of that is viewable here and traceable, can be reclassified as needed within the system as well. Our opportunities. So we're using some more of that CRM functionality where we're creating opportunities before we receive the money, right? So your grant management doesn't start from when you got the money, it starts from when you're trying to get the money, right? So when you're applying for those grants and you want to trace that, we can create opportunities and then trace that through a very common CRM sales function of tracing the closed won, closed lost reasons, the statuses of those opportunities throughout that whole process, all the communication that goes along with it. So there's that full visibility within your ERP of exactly what you are working on and what you expect to close and the forecasting that can come along with that. Right, so we can use our forecasting tools as well to start, projecting our cash flows and things like that based on statuses of grants and stuff. So you can see, in this case, we won it. So it's 100% probability, total is $10,000, and we're expecting it. It was expected to close on 6:30. So, hey, great job. We already closed it early. That's awesome. All right. Oh, I missed a couple of tabs there. Let me go back. Sorry, real fast. Our grant orders, right? So this is basically our pledges that go along with this as well. So before we actually create the invoice, we had this order, this pledge for the $10,000, which you can see is billed because we created the invoice for that. And then NetSuite also has projects. So grants use a lot of the project framework in NetSuite that are for-profit businesses also use projects. Grants use that same framework, but it is separate and it does not remove the ability for you to also track projects. So you can do project management as well as track your grants, even though they use a lot of the same system framework and I'll have a lot of the same functionality. So you can have projects tied to this that may have hours billed to those, and tasks within those too that maybe are completely separate from the milestones of the grant itself, right? So in the grant, you're tracking your milestones of, say, your reporting for your auditors and things like that, whereas the project are the individual tasks within it and what you're gonna complete. So you can get very granular if you want to. And then going back here, like I was, said, right, we're keeping all that information in one place. So whether it's user notes, whether it's files that we attach here, attach any kind of file to it, whether it's, communication that we're tracking to this grant as well, that's showing emails that we sent, or maybe we just log a phone call with some notes here. You can do all of that as well. And then just so you can visualize, nope, I'm gonna take that back. You're not gonna see it. We had the system notes. And so I talked about, let me see if I can find one that has some system notes here real quick. Here's a project. Let me see if this project come up. That maybe has some system notes for me. So I mentioned, right, the auditability of the system, the traceability within the system, and let's see if this has some information. So you can see everything that happens in the system. No, sorry. Sometimes with these demo accounts, it doesn't give you good data out of the box. Sorry, for the system notes. The point being, it's going to track everything that happens in the system from a time and date standpoint, who did it, what was changed even. So you'll have that visibility for your own internal purposes as well as for external auditors as well. So great, tool there to track what's happening in the system and what's changing and what you need to do with that. All right, so that is kind of the first 3 points of what we want to talk about today. The last point is where I said we want to scale without replatforming. And what do we mean by that? One of the things I love about nonprofits is you have a lot of uniqueness around how you account for things, right? But your business is a nonprofit business, but that is not what you do, right? Being a nonprofit is a legal designation, a tax designation. It has nothing to do with what your mission is and what you need to accomplish day to day as far as an operational standpoint goes. And that's where you're going to gain even better value out of a system like NetSuite, where you're able to run your entire operation on a single platform without being limited by its capabilities just because you needed accounting software that focused on fund accounting, right? That's great, but we work with nonprofits that have, various different business models and ways that they operate. We have nonprofits who are wholesale distributors and manufacturers. We have nonprofits who run retail stores and who are project-based, that, are completing, basically construction projects essentially. We have, ones that are taking, monthly billings, and recurring billings that they have, some unique requirements around, that are doing real estate deals, all kinds of stuff, right? Whatever your business is, you should be able to run on NetSuite, because you're not limited to just being a nonprofit in NetSuite. So whereas, I talked about this version that you would get out of the box, where you're going to have all of these great tools that are specifically created for nonprofits. And it's really focused on, the fund accounting, the grant management, the segmentation there. That's wonderful. But you are not limited from purchasing any other module that NetSuite offers. So if you're a nonprofit who is running a retail store, you can utilize the retail functionality that NetSuite has, that world-class, global retailers run on as well, right? If you manufacture something, if you have, project management that is extremely detailed, and you're doing resource allocations, and you're doing, time billings for your customers, whatever it may be that you do, you can also do that on NetSuite. So that's where you're going to be able to really maximize your value from this system of not just doing your accounting in it, but being able to bring your full operation into a single source, right? A single platform that you can do everything on. And that comes along with it, like I said, not just the modules that NetSuite has, but also all the third parties that work with NetSuite, right? So when you come into the fold of NetSuite, you immediately get access to, a lot of software companies that realize that they want to work with NetSuite, that they want to work with the customers that are on NetSuite. And so now you have all these third parties, you have great integrations to other tools. So if there's something that NetSuite does not do, and I'll be the first one to say it, they don't do everything. They try really hard to do some great things, but they don't do everything. When you need a third party, most of the time NetSuite works with them, right? And there's already some pre-built integrations and things like that. So we make it easy to run your business on NetSuite, and to run your business, period, right? And like I said earlier, the goal is to give you the tools to be able to do what you need to do day to day more easily, more automated, so that you can then run your business and complete your mission as a nonprofit. And that's what we want to help you do as well. That's what gets us excited. Not a software system, a system that allows you to function better as a business. So that is everything that I wanted to cover in today's webinar. And go over as far as the nonprofit goes. I believe we do have the ability to take some questions as well, so I will open that up and see if there are any questions at all that we need to answer while we're on the call here. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to let me know. And if my moderators could help me out with that as well, just in case I'm missing anything.
If anyone has a question, they can raise their hand on Zoom or post it in the chat. Oh, I see Q&A. Yep.
Yeah. So I see that. Yeah. So pricing model. It is a licensing model that is based on the system itself. So from a module standpoint, this kind of verticalized version of NetSuite, plus then the licensed seats, so users in the system. So you would pay a fee for the system that you purchase as far as what the modules available are. Some of those, like I said, would come with what you get as a bundle, essentially, version of NetSuite. And then if you added on additional ones like you needed inventory management, or you needed software modules, things like that, you would pay additional for those. And then any users. Now with the nonprofit version, you're going to get a handful of users included out of the box. I think that's typically 5. Because NetSuite likes nonprofits and likes working with nonprofits and really wants to, the user licenses for nonprofit users are discounted over what the typical user license is. And I hate to say a number without being exactly positive off the top of my head what that number is, so we can get you that for sure. But yeah, it's a subscription based core system plus users is the model there. Any other questions from anybody in the system or in the webinar? Well, I hope this was helpful for everyone here. I know it was a very broad overview of NetSuite for nonprofits, right? And like I said, there's a lot that we could drill into and dive into from a feature and function standpoint. And I'm very happy to do that with every single one of you on this call and spend as much time as possible to show you that, and even to run scenarios specifically to what you do in your business. That's what I get to do day to day from my job. So if it's something that you're considering NetSuite, I'm happy to show you whatever it is you need to see to confirm that it could work for you. And then also, back to our pricing question there too, to get some, real pricing as well and try to help you understand what it would look like from a budgeting standpoint for you and your business. Like I said, we love working with nonprofits. It makes me happy to help you guys out because I do appreciate the mission that you're performing, in many different ways, but I appreciate what you do. So thank you so much, all of you, for taking the time to join our webcast today. And for anyone that watches this later on, we appreciate your time as well to watch it too. And if you do have questions, please feel free to follow up with us. Actually, let me go change my, I need to change my sharing. Let me pull this up really quickly. And I'm going to put this back on to my slide. I should have done this a second ago because I do want to show you some contact information. Oh man, these slides, they're not my thing. Sorry, I had a lot of them and I decided to skip them. There we go. All right, so hopefully y'all can see that. Okay, if you want to, there's a QR code for you. You can scan that. That'll take you to a page that you can sign up if you do want to have a one-on-one with us. We're happy to schedule that with you. And then those are 3 of our client solutions reps that we have here at Techfino. Every single one of them has worked with nonprofits and both in NetSuite and out of it as well. So they're all very happy to work with nonprofits too and can help answer questions and all that. So feel free to reach out to any of them as well. If there are no other questions, then we will let everyone get back to your regularly scheduled day. Thank you so much for your time today, and hope to be in touch with you all soon.